Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Austin Whitsitt, John Kays, DL Hill, Julian Jeremiah, Maxi Tyken, Michael Kahn, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Bose Nail, Samson, Maris, Hairy Blade, Mobile Axe 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I'm going to hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show.
Going on for weeks. I'm going to take a freaking bat and smash it off the wall.
What's it saying? Let's just hear it again without you saying anything.
Please proceed to the stairways and exit the building. Do not use the elevator. May I have your attention, please? May I have your attention, please? There has been an alarm reported in the building. Please proceed to the stairways and exit the building. Do not use the elevator.
Crazy, right?
May I have your...
Okay, I think we've heard enough of that. Thank you very much.
I've been listening to it all day yesterday.
All because you mentioned flat Earth?
That's what the ballers are, the anti-flat earthers. That's actually what they're doing.
Oh, there's got to be a way of minimising it, because every time you speak, it's going to just send my audience away.
I'm not going to. I'm going to stay on mute.
Okay.
Hey, did you hear the Pink Floyd reference in that guy's? You posted the video, I think, a few days ago, and he was arguing. I think it had to do with cats. He was arguing that a horizon can't exist without Earth curve. How can you have Earth curve without a horizon? Reminded me of the Pink Floyd, The Walls. If you don't eat your meat, you can't have any pudding. How can you have any pudding if you don't eat your meat?
Okay. Makes perfect sense to me. Why not?
So, John is saying that on a plane, with the way the eyes work and the vanishing point and perspective, that it can't be a horizon?
Right. There can't be a physical horizon, right?
Yeah. Well, we know that, but
well, not physical horizon. There can't be a physical obstruction that he assumes is a physical horizon on a plane.
well, but they need a physical obstruction from a physical horizon to give them the validity that Earth's surface is curved based on 3959. It has to show up at the required number based on the height of the observer, whether 1 foot high or 5 feet high.
Hey, is it better when I got the headphones on, or are you still hearing it?
Still hearing it.
But thanks for asking. We really appreciate that sound check. Go on, John. Feel free to answer.
The recording kind of messed me up. What was the question again, Terrence?
The physical horizon, I was answering it with the plane and the visual effects of perspective, obviously, you can't see forever. And since they don't allow perspective to be part of anything,
Yeah, if you lived on a ball, there would be a geometric obstruction we would experience as the horizon at a set distance depending upon your observer height.
correct. So if we take the black swan and the camera was at 1 foot high, it should be at 1.22 miles.
So we don't live on a sphere of radius 3959.
The best you've done is to prove the radius of the Earth. Welcome to Flat Earth, Mr. Sensible.
But you know what's interesting is the same thing that fixes their R value, the celestial movements, is what they then try to fall back on to, like claim a radius again. But that's what fixed the value. You can't make it bigger because of that.
Well, when they say a 6 foot man could see 3 miles, and that just happens, maybe Nathan could expand on this with the Rayleigh criteria or the diffraction limit, something about 1.22. It's eerily close to that factor you use for the 3959. But here it's supposed to be at 1.22 miles at a 1 foot observer eye. Who can't see 1.22 miles? I mean, you should be able to mirror that National Geographic debacle and put something at 1.32 miles and say, see, at 1.22 the curve starts, and 1.32 you see we can't see the bottom of this thing out there. Well, come on, the horizon's well beyond that.
I was thinking for a mathematical get around, they could claim that the eye itself is refracting the light. And then add that into their Earth curve equations.
Well, that's fine.
Refraction.
That's fine. Then I'll say water itself is level to offset that.
Oh, they'll agree to that. They'll just say level is curved.
There we go. So we know.
I'm just going to send it you on Skype just to save any confusion, or I'll stick it in Master B. 10th.
What's that?
Optical resolution and the Rayleigh criterion.
Oh. Yeah, Master B would be good. I can look at it there.
No, because good morning, guys.
Hey, Eli.
Because of 10th, like I'm sitting there.
Whoops.
What I'm talking to NDO, which is another. He's an admin over at 24/7. Like they get really technical, and it's just like you want to be following along, but you're like, And I expressed to them that that's exactly how I felt about navigation and the sextant. Like you've been explaining it for I don't know how long in the pre-shows, and then it just expanded. And it took a long time to finally, like when words are said, I have a mental image, some kind of, some kind of mental images to how all of this stuff works now. But before, I didn't, like Azimuth, all of this stuff is like, what? It's voodoo. I don't know what that means,
Welcome to the learning curve, where the curve only exists.
Yeah. So now, it comes to me, and I'm because I realized as I was trying to explain it to another woman, that I'm like, no, it's simple. Look, you have the angle right here. Like it's very simple. Look. And she was just like, I hear you and I'm following along, but math and angles is not my thing. And I'm like, what the fuck? It's so easy. And I'm like, no, it's not. I just started getting this stuff last week. so
the problem is if math isn't your thing, which really is also a statement I could say because I had trouble with anything above addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, all that stuff when I went to school. You create a block for yourself prior to anything. So no matter what anyone's saying, you've already zoned them out. But fortunately, you don't have to do that once you understand altitude and azimuth, the alt-az system.
Yeah.
Because altitude is just zenith to zero. You can only get a 90 degree. You can't go more than 90 degree because 90 degrees is directly above you. So if you're anywhere in the ocean, directly above you is your zenith, that's your 90.
Uh-huh.
So then how do you use a sextant? You can't do it. It's tough because there's no landmarks. Well, the only landmark there is the horizon, if you want to call it that. It's only, you can't do it on the vertical, the zenith, the ship is moving too much on the water, usually. So you choose something stable, which is the horizon. And that's at zero. So it's just the height above the horizon, measured in degrees, and it's no more than 90. That's the alt-az system, and it's for bearing. So like a compass, you start at the north, and you get your bearing of that star. So it might give you, 100 degrees, bearing on the compass. So you know what direction it is.
Right. Like the thing, I was looking at something that Battle Modi had sent me a ton of stuff. And, right. Also, I was supposed to come to you about the thing that we were talking about maybe 2 or so months ago, looking for more sources into the celestial thing. I won't mention it here, but you remember what I'm talking about? Where you were looking into it because you only saw one guy that did it with one instead of the presupposed two.
It's early.
The hemispheres. Because we're talking about the celestial, right? I might have a lead on that, but anyway.
Okay.
Dang, I lost my train of thought. Remembering that
you were talking to a lady. She brought up a question.
No, it's just interesting that like when you begin learning things and you forget how not intuitive it was when you're trying to show other people. It takes every individual time and energy to put in the work, and either you are or you aren't. That's all.
No, absolutely agreed. I would have to watch the same video and other videos that had the same topic numerous times, and then try to piece it together, because one video would take more time to explain a phrase, whereas the other just said the phrase. And then I'd go and read, like a PDF on it or something from a university. And after just letting it all settle in and sleeping over everything, just sleep, just go to bed. Don't even try to figure it out. Wake up the next morning. It seems like while I was sleeping, everything went into the right compartment in my brain, or my mind, if you want to go that way. And then the next video I saw, everything started pieced together. I go, oh, I get it. Okay, that's what he meant. So that's the time and effort people have to put into it. But it's real simple. It's in the title. It's the horizontal coordinate system.
That's what he was right there. That's what he was explaining. He was like, it's on a grading system where the lines have a relationship to each other. That's all it really is. Then you have the stars that are over, the position on the ground, and that's how you do your work. He said the same thing you're saying. If you look at any depiction anywhere, it's hard to imagine that they're doing this on not hard to imagine. There's no reason to imagine it. They're doing it across a plane.
But they can't get an angle on the globe. They're dead right there. No one's, because all the Muppet vision, pictures that they put, and it's from the center, and they get a right angle from the central angle of a circle, not a sphere, in the drawing. They hoodwink everyone thinking this is how it's done. So it's kind of this, okay, they're experts, I see how it's done. It's really from the center of the earth. But really?
That's not even true. I won't even afford them that. No, the radius is is going outward towards the horizon. That's what they're doing. I can't even let them say because that's not what they're doing.
That's exactly right. That's not how it's done. The RA.
Look at me sounding all confident and stuff.
Well, they all do. It's BS that the BS meter hasn't gone off, so their BS is their truth, you know. But the right ascension and declination is reference points in the sky, space. Yeah. They're space. That's a different reference point. This alt-az is a horizontal reference point. It's based on the observer. Well, there's no observer in the center of Earth that you think is a ball.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's dumb.
There's no way around that. There's no way around it.
What you munching on?
Sorry, Sandies. They don't even have the pecans. It's just the Sandies.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Eli, 10th Man. Who else we got? Neil, Refracted Curvature, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hello.
Hello.
And also Arwin. Hello, Arwin. Or maybe not.
Hello, good afternoon.
Welcome back to
You
YouTube
are,
after your short breakaway.
Yeah, I am back. Although it feels like I never really left now.
Yeah, that's the thing with a week-long ban. It's just soon gone, really. Good stuff. So tune into the early bird. It's an hour before this show, or a couple of hours before this show starts.
2 hours.
Yeah, I was correcting myself. So yeah, 2 hours before the show starts on Arwin channel, ARWIJNB here or B Sphere. Any other notes?
Thank you.
Any other things of note before we go to housekeeping? Discord, anything you wanted to get in early?
Yeah, we got some breaking news, Nathan.
Oh, well, that's the kind of thing I was hoping for. Go ahead.
Well, Mr. Blue, you know about his experiment that he's doing with the balls?
Do I know about... Say that again.
The Cavendish experiment. Mr. Blue Marble Science is doing?
No, he isn't. It's not an experiment.
Well, yeah. Excuse my language. Whatever he's doing there. Well, the breaking news is Nathan. He detected apparently the earthquake in Haiti the other day.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Now, apparently, it's supposed to be isolated from everything, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Oh, I see the irony. You're saying, even though it's not an experiment, even though it's not got a valid phenomena to be observing, even though it's been superseded by an Einsteinian pseudo-Riemannian force-space-time bending, it's supposed to be isolated, notwithstanding all of the current objections and 106-year out-of-date staleness that this has got whiffing of.
Correct, yes. You caught the irony. Beautiful.
I see. So it's so well isolated it picked up an earthquake some distance away. Marvellous. It's still not an experiment.
Oh, no, absolutely
Beth,
not. But I just thought I'd bring it to, the attention of everybody.
Yeah, Bev just put the link to the YouTube on this in Masterpiece. So just for your knowledge.
The link to...
The blue marble thing he's referencing.
Oh, I don't care about that. I'm not going to link that to people. Sorry, Blue, if you're watching.
I'm not saying you should.
It's not an experiment.
I'm not saying you should. I'm just letting you know it's there.
I see. So the dusty old, in name only, Newtonian gravity was superseded 106 years ago by Einsteinian pseudo-Riemannian force space. And that would be the notion that the uneven distribution of mass causes that dimension to bend. That's the current rhetoric of gravity. Sod all to do with mass attracting mass. It's debunked by gas behaviour. So gas expands in all directions to fill the availability of volume. It does not go down at 9.8 metres per second towards the mass of the centre of Earth. That does not occur. Hence it was superseded. It's debunked by gas behaviour. So him trying to assert that his balls in a shed are somehow proving that mass attracts mass? No, it isn't.
Well, you're going to need R for that anyway.
What, centre of M1? Yes, indeed. You're going to need R for that. So you might as well start there. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Well, that's what I was asking. The description of gravity in Einsteinian, what is that? Is it? I mean, if you don't have an accurate description of something, if I'm describing like water boiling as the air farting into the water, can I take that into the scientific method?
Yeah, you've got physicality to it, but I've already told you that this isn't something described in the physical. This is something described in the abstract, pseudo, for space. So, can I give you an accurate description of it? Yes, I can. The uneven distribution of mass causing the pseudo-Riemannian for space-time to bend. There you go, there's an accurate description of it, but it doesn't make it physical in any way, shape, or form.
Can I note something here? You asked for scientific evidence, and for people that aren't really paying attention to the topic as much as some of us are, consider what I'm saying, and then, you can either try to disprove it or go and do. Here it is. So neither Einstein nor Newton actually presented anything as scientific evidence, specifically. It's not like they said, this is scientific evidence for gravity.
Indeedy weedy, I feign no hypothesis. Any more on gravity? Anyone from Discord? Well, thank you, SE Montreal, by the way.
My pleasure, Nathan.
I was just going to say in the Einsteinian description, though, space bending around M1, that means you're going to need a radius for, the mass of M1 for something to bend around.
Or to put it another way, you're going to need R for that, right?
Damn right you are.
Well, it's as good as place as any to go next. Right, any evidence of Earth radius?
Only horizontally if you're navigating across the plane. It's not necessarily a shape radius, though. It's just the distance you'll travel from one point to another.
Okay, any evidence
Assume that the equator is the circumference and then calculate it from there.
No, that's not what he's saying. He's saying within a certain circle you can travel, and then you could call the point that you travel to the edge of the circle that you drew would be a radius. That's what he's saying. But he also disclaimed that he was describing it on a flat plane, so it doesn't mean a great deal. Yes, you'd navigate across the flat plane. Big shout out to all the people who are currently picking up with, as they well should, 10th man's nice detailed explanations of how sextants work, and only work on a flat plane. So you've got Mitchell from Australia who's covering this. Brian's been covering it. Flatzoid's been covering it. More power to all of you. Hopefully people will understand it. It's not the most simple topic to understand. Triangulation is not an easy concept to just immediately get your head around. But with a few explanations, hopefully from people who have got a good knowledge of the subject in the first instance, you'll get your head around how it can only work on a flat plane, given that the bottom of a triangle to do triangulation has to be flat, and to get 90 degrees you can't achieve it on a curved surface. So, yeah. Any more for any more R value?
Show's over. That's it, folks. Pop the champagne.
Shout out to Jules.
Just going to say that they can assume that the equator is the circumference of the sphere and calculate the R value that way.
We'll come back to that. I'll just shout out this super chat. Jules Lutz says, why are Globers always wrong about everything? Because they're not on the bloody ball. Very good. Yeah, but number one, that requires you to presuppose that you've got a R value capable of derivation by the movement of those celestial bodies that is actually a sphere radius. So even if you take those observations and plot them and derive a radius from it, you've still got a radius similar to what was being described a minute ago by Eli. You know, you've still just got a flat circle with an R value. Well, whoopee-doo. Unless you assume that's on the outside edge of a spherical surface. What good is it?
Well, Black Swan
That's
took
true.
care of that outside. The Black Swan took care of that outside version of it.
Yeah, you're not going to be going antipodal unless you can curve around something.
Good morning, guys.
Hey, Chocolate.
Hello.
Yeah, there's only one radius, and that's on a plane from the circle of equal altitude, from the point where the GP of the sun, star, whatever it is, to your point where you observed it. And the ballers hate that radius, so they have this other one that the Black Swan destroyed. So, you know, if you lost a teddy bear, you'd like to have another one. So here we are, giving you the true radius.
Pick a radius, any radius?
No, we're offering them a conciliatory radius so they don't cry. But they don't like this radius because it's on a two-dimensional circle.
Each triangle that you're drawing could have that triangle rotated. So if you imagine that on the flat surface you've got a triangle with a 90-degree angle that meets the GP of the star. So directly below the star you've got a straight line going up. And then out from that, you've got another arm of a triangle. Yeah? So the 190-degree angle goes up to the star, straight down to the ground. The other moves out to the side. But you could spin that triangle, or that 90-degree angle, in a circle. Yeah? Like a compass. And you draw a circle with it. Well, inside that area, That's what Tenths is describing when he says we're giving them a compensatory radius value. Well, yeah, you've got a radius that you can draw beneath the GP of each star, and where they all intersect will meet your fix, your position, once you've triangulated with them. But each one has got a circle that you could draw around, like with an imaginary compass, that gives you a radius for the area of equal altitude for that star.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Brian.
Afternoon, guys.
Hey, Adam. Any more
Nathan,
for any more on radius?
I just sent you some pictures of Masterby you can show the audience.
Me.
And thank you to Brian and Tent and Adam, Quantum too. Can't forget Big Boss Man, Sleeping Warrior. So thank you guys for being helpful over the weekend. Appreciate it.
No worries, Eli. It's a pleasure.
Exactly. This picture, 10th, thank you very much. So you got S1, S2, and S3. I think it was Brian that originally popped this up, or it was the first place I saw it anyway. So that's what I'm trying to describe when I say there's a line going up for your first part of the triangle from the star. And if this was actually doing a triangulation, you would be at this point that I'm circling on screen now in the centre of these three triangles. And with your sextant, that's your first angle that you're going to draw. So you're basically pointing your sextant out to the horizon, getting the angle to this star, which is going to be called S2 in this example. But that's then got a flat, straight line from the GP of the star to your position. And what I was trying to describe earlier is if you span this, so if you imagine you've got your fingertips up here and you spin this circle around like a compass, that's what it creates. And this is called an area of equal, or circle of equal elevation or equal altitude. And at the centre of that circle, which is what the constellatory R value that was being mentioned earlier by 10th, that's this. That's the R values. That one arm of the triangle, the bottom arm, becomes your radius of that circle of equal altitude. You need 3 of them, and where they all 3 intersect will give you your fix on a flat plane. Not capable of being done if this line is bent. Thank you for the slide.
Yeah,
no,
they must be parallel, right, Brian?
Yes, exactly. Exactly, Ken. And all radius lines have to be straight. A circle is a 2D surface. No matter what way you put it, it's 2-dimensional. It's flat, that means. And all radii and all radii and diameters are straight lines. You can't get away from that. So it can't work on a sphere. It's not that it possibly couldn't. It can't.
Shout out to Retro Bill. He says, Blue Marble Science is like a father to me, and George Netanyahu is like my slobbering granddad. Very good. Thank you very much for the super chat, Retro Bill. Exactly, Brian. It cannot work on a curved surface. So, although this isn't trying to depict it on a sphere, it's just giving you an overall circle. I don't know why it's even drawn in this way. You know, you can ignore this particular circle because what you've now got on screen is the depiction overhead, or trying to look like it's overhead, of the 3 circles you had represented here. So you're looking down on them, and then as you can see, you've got the 90-degree angle. But in this case, instead of the arm coming out and meeting your fix, it's just coming out to some arbitrary position on this circle of equal altitude for each of the GPs of these 3 stars. Whereas on this diagram, which is much better, it's the one, like I say, that I got from Brian originally, each of the arms meets your fix position here. And it's fair enough on this, it's still got, showing how it's triangulated at the fixed position on this diagram. So this was originally the best we had from 10th. Still very good depiction, other than I hate the circle, the blue circle. It's like, why is that there?
Well, it serves a purpose, because that's how they want to show it. See, what they got there is 3 circles of equal altitude, but you can see it's got the 90-degree box at the GP of those 3 stars. Well, they're telling you right there that that's got to be a straight line, but they got it on a depiction of a curved sphere. But then you can't put that 90-degree box symbol there if it's curved sphere. And I just sent you another one where we isolate one of these stars. You can see that one. So I like using them together because, as you can see in the one with the sphere depiction, you got a red dot where all three circles meet, and that's your fix. Well, they're telling you right there, you need a 90-degree, a right angle triangle to the GP from the observer who's on the edge of that circle somewhere. It just explodes in their face. It can't be done that way. So that's why that other one, S1, S2, S3, shows how it's actually done. And then I just sent you S1 highlighted, so you can look at that if you want.
Yeah, I had it up while you were talking. It's excellent. Indeed. So this circle is just irrelevant. I mean, you could very easily say that this is just a fourth circle of equal elevation or equal altitude, because why not? If the star was over this position, your circle would be drawn even bigger with that particular position at the centre of it. And you just have a 90-degree from here-ish. In other words, all of the areas within this blue circle are all at the same elevation or considered to be the same elevation. In other words, no drop, no curve, no sphere. Won't work if there was. Has to be flat for it to work. Go ahead, whoever that was.
There are two... Oh.
Go ahead, Adam.
There are two incorrect points on that diagram of the ball Earth. The first is that the angles to the stars are drawn as a right angle. There won't be a right angle if you transpose that onto a ball surface. And the second is coming off the right angle, going to the circumference, it's a straight line. And again, it would not be a straight line. So that diagram is technically incorrect to me. There's two incorrect geometrically incorrect is what's been drawn on there if you're trying to represent that blue ball as a sphere.
Indeed. It works perfectly acceptably as a crude diagram to show how triangulation works if you rub out the blue circle or just made it all blue, rather than a black square with a blue circle to somehow vaguely hint at this working on a spherical surface. Whereas in reality, each of these circles are equal elevation, therefore that's what it's actually representing, this S1, S2, S3 on a flat plane. And it can't not, because the bottoms of each of the triangles have to have a right angle in order for this to be capable of triangulation. So, same thing's depicted here. They've got right angles on each of them, saying this is going to be giving you a right angle. It's like, well, then it's not curving away from this position. So, they kind of give the game away, but they've got to loosely hint at sphericity, right? And that's what this is doing with the depiction. Fine, up until this one came along, which is much better.
Well, that's the beauty that... Well, go on, Brian. I have
2 points to make. You make a point, and I have 2 points to make.
Okay. What Adam did is exactly what I said, but he said it better. The purpose that they use that one is because of the magic trick. And then he just tore it apart. It's the same thing. You can't have that 90-degree box and have those three circle of equal altitudes on a sphere surface. It doesn't work that way. But it serves for our good because we're able to point that out and show the magic trick with just visuals. So it's not correct, but that's how they've been fooling people. The second set of pictures showing a proper way is the correct way and the only way to get that 90-degree box. So they both can be used. One is to wake up the baller or anti-flat earther. The other one is to show how it actually works. Go on, Brian.
Thanks, Tate. Yeah, I totally agree with everything you're after saying there. But my 2 points will be, the first point will be on the S1, S2, and S3 diagram. And this is coming from arguments that the ballers have tried, because they want to ignore that the radius line can be hundreds and thousands of miles, right? And the diameter then is double that. So they keep on trying to put an angle onto a curved surface. And they're saying, well, you wouldn't really notice any curve with a small bit. This kind of thing. It's like, no, it's a curved surface. You need hundreds and thousands of miles of a radius often. It doesn't work with a curved surface. You can't get an angle off a curved surface. But what they're forgetting is, if you look up in that diagram with S1, S2, and S3 is, the person is in the center of the point of those three angles, let's say, where they meet, right? But that person is making a right angle, right, with their zenith, right, to the radius line. they make a right angle with their zenith. Because what people are forgetting here is that they show the right angle in the center of each one of these circles, right? They're showing where they only show it on two, but they're implying that it's obviously on the third one. The right angle where the square is at the center of the circles. But there is a right angle at the other side of that as well. So you need two right angles because you're basically creating like a rectangle or a box, which requires right angles. You can't at their corners. You can't have it any other way. So the ballers are trying to try and work in some angle, right, just out to the horizon, which might only be 3 miles away, and kind of go, well, it wouldn't be that much curve there. It has nothing to do with that. There is curve. It's not an angle. End of story. And it's only you're trying to work, and they're trying to work to the horizon. They're missing the point. It goes for hundreds and thousands of miles, and that's just the radius. The diameter is double that. But more than that, what absolutely kills the whole lot is, Nathan, if you show the other diagram where it's on a sphere, the blue sphere with the 3 circles, soon as you do, thank you. As soon as you do that and change the angles to the center of the globe, then they change the original angles. So that would make doing it and pre-assuming a flat plane pointless, because your angles then to the stars completely change when you change it to the center of the globe, of their globe, I should say. So they're changing the angles, the original angles that are taken with the pre-assumption of flat and horizontal.
Hold on. Give clarity. Yeah. Hold on. Got to start distinguishing this. No, they don't. This is how it's actually done. So when you say what they do is distort it and show that it's going to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, what you mean is
no.
Anti-flat Earthers distort and claim that you can do it that way and then show it depicted that way, but it isn't actually done that way.
Well, no. The point is that they change it and put the angles to the center of their sphere out, and then think that the angles are the same angle. They're not. The original observer would have 3 different angles to those stars then. That's my point. As soon as you put it change things to the center of their globe, because they have to go to the center and bring an imaginary chord line through the center of their globe at their equator. As soon as you do that, then you're instantly changing the original angles. So it would make your original angles completely pointless, is my point.
I have a rebuttal.
Hold on. Because I've actually found it now, just for Brian's point to be made. I've got it on screen now. So yes, what Brian's describing is how on this diagram with the blue circle, we'll call it, you've got an actual 90 degree to each of these positions, because it's not assumed, it's the way it's actually being done, that there's a 90 degree angle to be acquired. In other words, this whole area, if you can consider all of that as being measured, is all flat, right? Ignoring the blue circle, just drawing out each of the circles' outline. All of that's flat and must be for this fix to be acquired. Then we move over to what the anti-flat earther would represent it as. They take a zenith reading, and the only thing that's going to give you 90 degrees for an accurate measurement is going to be this line that I'm drawing my mouse along now, from your zenith out at 90 degrees. However, when you then take the measurement of the angle to the zenith position of each star, the angle then changes because it's meeting a point that has dropped away from that zenith position originally. In other words, this depiction on screen now, with chords, they're not actually drawn accurately as chords, but nevertheless, a slice of the sphere being taken off for GPA and GPB means that you've no longer got the same GP angle for star A when measuring it from your zenith position, because this isn't creating a 90 degree. Even with the chord that they've drawn, it changes and alters the angle. Sorry, go ahead, whoever said that. Unless, Brian, did you want to add anything? I don't know if you can see this on screen on the live stream.
Oh yeah, all I would say is that if you look at from the observer's position there and you look at the red arrows, and then you come down to the center of their globe and you look at that angle, right? That angle there, right, might appear to be the same as what the person is seeing from the surface, but the person on the surface then has a completely, when you bring the angle down to the center of their globe, that widens out widens out the angle, the final, it widens out the angle. So you end up with the stars being in 2 completely different positions. So that's what I wanted to say.
Exactly, it doesn't match. But the point is, and I'll go back to it, that's why I brought it up, just so it didn't sound like I was hand-waving your point, which is accurate. They don't do it this way. This is not how it is done. So this anti-flat Earth rhetoric, all right, it works like this on a sphere, and it almost matches what? The triangulation done on equal elevations. They don't do it that way. They don't do it in this manner. That's not how it's done.
No, but they'll show it in books and things to do with the sextant. They'll show it like that. But in reality, they'll have to use flat.
Yeah, this is how it actually is done and cannot be not done this way because of the 90 degree required at the GP, that's the point at the bottom below each star, on the ground below it. So when you've got that star 90 degree to your position, if you were here, now obviously you're not, you're here. If my mouse would work. You're here. So therefore it's the GP of the star. Now spherical reasoning means that you can only achieve a zenith if you are at that position. But each and every one of S2, S1 and S3 have all got a zenith that's 90 degree to your position. Not attainable on a sphere. Sorry to keep reiterating this, but it is worth repeating it again and again and again until people have it drilled into them. Whoever it was, I think it was John, go ahead.
Was it?
Yeah, I'm sorry that I had a screaming kid there for a second. The baller in me kind of kicked up for a second on the you can't get the angle would change from distance. Well, in their paradigm, it'd be like the Tycho Brahe defense. Well, for the angles to remain the same over that distance, the stars would have to be an astronomical distance away, right?
No, that still doesn't work.
I'd like to add to that.
No, that still doesn't work when you transpose it onto the curved surface. So it alters the layout of the land. Do you want to expand on that, Brian? Because that wasn't cemented in my mind until you detailed it in a video about 2 or 3 videos ago. Do you know what I'm talking about?
You talk about the 2D and 3D.
Yes.
Yeah, it alters the layout. Not only does when you put the angle to the center of the sphere, does it alter the original angles to the stars, which makes the original angles which would make the original angles pointless. But secondly, the circle that you create, the circle of equal altitude, is a 2D surface. So when you place that circle onto the side of a sphere, what happens is the diameter of that circle in distance, which will be a distance measurement on the Earth, that diameter will be less than the arc of the sphere that resides within it, because the arc is curved within it. If you straighten out the arc that's within it, it'll be longer in distance than the diameter. So the 2 points.
Just stop a second. Just stop 1 second.
Yeah.
I just want to show what you've done a good job, excellent verbal description, but I just want to show depictorially what Brian's just explained. So where my mouse is now pointing at on this flat circle that's been chopped off this sphere, between my mouse and point A is a straight, flat line in this depiction with what we'll call, for ease of description, a chord drawn across this line. So this line's flat. However, when you then plot that onto the actual position that is claimed to be on a curved surface, you've then got an increased distance between point A and where I started with my mouse. I'm now drawing it out for the audience's representation of how this line is now bowed, where it was formerly a chord, if you will. A straight line, then transposed onto the actual land mass on the map, would then be at a different geographical position because the distance has increased significantly based on this depiction, where you've got thousands, if not tens of thousands of square miles of flat depiction in this circumference that's then going to be bulging back out when you plot it onto the land. Hope that's clear. Sorry if I've taken lots of time, Brian, but I want to make it absolutely clear what you're describing when you talk about this line, which is straight in this depiction, then being bulged on a curved surface on the plotting of that position. Feel free to continue.
Yeah, I actually will. Yeah, I will, and I'll actually give you a diagram that you can use to depict that. That's what I'll do. Easier than this one. Yeah, no, you basically laid it out, Nathan. At any point on that circle, from any point on that circle, the opposite side of that point will be the diameter, and that will always be less in distance than the arc that will reside within it. So consequently, where the circle will touch the sphere will be a much bigger distance than the straight line chord distance, let's just say, through the circle. the best way to explain it, right, is take the globe out mathematics. Take the diameter of their equator. It's like 8,000 miles. But the arc of the globe that resides within it and goes over the top of it from any point on it, over and through their North Pole and back down to the other side, or down and through their South Pole and back up to the other side, that will be about 12,000+ miles. So you're talking 4,000 extra miles. So the circle of their equator, right, the diameter of that is 4,000, maybe a bit over 4,000 miles less than the arc of the curve that resides of the arc of the globe out that resides within it, above it and below it. So that's why the distance across a 2D surface will be less than across will be less than where it will meet on the 3D. I'm after kind of getting a bit sideways. Where it will be less than where the 2 point, where any point of that circle meets on a 3D spherical surface.
That's perfect.
Spherical surface. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Quick shout out to Jules Lutz again. He says, is that right? Geocentric empires were run by emperors. Kingdoms were run by kings. These days, countries are run by... Over to you, Brian. Thank you very much for the super chat.
Can I share a couple of things?
Crooks. Countries are run by crooks.
Temp, have you seen what I just posted? I've just done a little...
Okay, why don't you go ahead, Adam? I'll go look, and then I'll finish up afterwards.
Just to exemplify your first triangle, so I just stuck it in Photoshop and tried to bend the base to be on a ball. And hopefully you can see...
Hold on, have you posted this in Master B? Because I've got a picture of a nice sailboat under a load of sun rays.
I've screen shared it for you here in Google.
Yeah, Master B are mine, but Adam's got it on screen share right now, so I do see it, Adam.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just messing about, but it's just hopefully exemplifies the point that the reason we can use geometry to calculate these things accurately is because we're using geometry, right angles and straight lines. As soon as we try and put that on, we can do what Brian's done, which is to create chord segments and chop domes off of a ball, etc., etc. But the way in which they're pretending they're doing it is by not having right angles and having bendy R's. And it's just a little bit just to kind of exemplify how nonsensical it is from a geometric and geometry point of view to claim what they're claiming, because that's what they're claiming.
I love it. The one on the left looks like it's been left out in the sun.
Speaking of the sun.
Oh, did you leave my triangulation diorama on the radiator?
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, excellent work there. The article that I posted with the S1, can you go to that, Nathan?
Yes, it's up.
Okay, all right, I'm going to go to my version here. I can read it. All right, so if you go to the middle of the paragraph, it says, using a book containing known reference values for the star in question at the time of measurement. So the book is an Alcohol Almanac, known reference values for the star in question at the time of measurement, not calculation, measurement. It is possible to determine the distance r along the surface of Earth to the point at which the star is exactly overhead. That would be its GP, known as ground position or geographical position. That's why you can get the 90. But it gets better. From this, a navigator knows he is on a specific circle, not sphere, circle, along the plane of the surface of Earth. So if that doesn't hit you hard, a circle of equal altitude along the plane of the surface of the Earth of radius r, known as the line of position. He does not know his direction from this point, however. By examining a second star a second radius can be deduced. The navigator now knows he's at one of the points where both the circular functions meet. In the case that there is only one real route, he knows his position, although this is only possible if the radii are parallel. Let that sink in. More realistically, he can look up at a third star in order to find the intersection between three circles. This will give him his location to a certain precision based on the position of his watch, altimeter, and the divisions on the reference table. Now think about what this guy just did in his explanation of how sextant works on the surface of a plane Earth.
Yeah, being parallel is the description of all of these lines along the bottom running parallel, all flat, non-curving away. It can't work if they curve away. They must be flat. The surface, the area, the radius being described is all considered, measured, and utilising a flat plane.
Yeah,
Correct.
when he says surface, he's speaking about the surface, not a chord line through an imaginary globe. Yes?
Yes, he says it. He says a plane. First he mentioned surface, then he said it again, but he gave it more detail. The plane.
For the geometry to work, the statement in there was quite clear. They're all on a flat surface. They're a level flat surface, both the observer and the assumed GPs of the stars. That's the prerequisite for the mass you're then going to use to work.
Exactly. The radii, he says, are parallel. So all three radiuses have to be parallel.
Well, there'd be no point in taking angles if you're going to then switch the angle to the center of a globe, which would completely negate your original angles, making the whole thing a complete waste of time.
Much
Why
better.
would you do that?
Much better phraseology. Indeed. As opposed to what they do is bend it when it can't be bent. It's like the anti-flat earth rhetoric. Yum, yum, yum. And what they actually do is just basic triangulation with the GP of each star and then a circle around it, and then the point that they all meet is you're fixed. That's where you are. It's really that simple. And that can't work if it's curved. It's really that simple.
Very good. Also, can you show the two pictures of the sun, Nathan? Tell me when you got the...
One looks like an oil painting or a print.
Yeah. But basically, there's tons of these pictures. And that's a beautiful one, the one with the blue. This is how sunlight, in reality, our eyes capture it. Now, there's countless videos on the sextant. And the one thing they need to even push the light that is coming from the center of a sphere is sunlight has to come in parallel. Well, we know sunlight doesn't come in parallel. We know it's divergent, crepuscular rays. That's reality. So in their little magic trick, they say the sunlight, the stars are so far away, such vast distances, that essentially the light hitting the Earth is parallel. That's why we can take the angle from the center of a sphere, and it'll be the same angle from the top when the observer is just using a tangent line for his local horizon. This is how they sidestep it. But it doesn't work, because number one, we just killed it by how a sextant does actually work. Number two, sunlight doesn't come in parallel. It comes in divergent. So they're just dead on so many points, it's ridiculous.
Quite nice, this second one, because it actually kind of draws out what you'd have. It doesn't have a direct... Oh, it does. Yeah, it does. So you could consider this line as being the GP. Yeah? This is the point on the ground below this. You can use the sun, it doesn't matter, but we're going to say star just because that's what we've been saying. Although this is a picture of the sun before anyone jumps down my throat. But this centre line, that gives you the GP. And to triangulate the position of the sun in this regard, the line that's reflected beautifully on the flat water, that's going to give you your position if you're the cameraman standing down here. Right, I know you're not, but just for ease of description. In other words, where this line here that comes down from the sun, star, meets this line that comes to your position, yeah? That's a 90-degree angle here. This is 90 degrees. Yeah? And you're going to measure your angle. I'll come off to the side of the screen, but we're going to say that this down here is your position again. And all you're going to do is you're going to measure an angle up to the sun. And then you've got all three sides of the triangle. But this part of the triangle, from you to the position of the sun in this regard, up through its GP on this line here, that's a 90 degree. And it doesn't matter if this is a star that's considerably further than the horizon. Yeah? In other words, if the GP is long past this point here, you can still draw a 90 degree to it all the way out into the distance. Because it's all flat.
Nathan, I got some pictures for you that will do you more justice, if you like to.
Cool. Very cool.
I was going to say, as a disclaimer to all this is a pretty complicated argument if you don't understand it. So, like, I wouldn't necessarily, if I didn't understand this argument, I wouldn't necessarily use it on, like, you know, someone you didn't know.
Basic. Hello? Did you want to add something? Hello? ASIC? ASIC? Can you hear us? Well, this is fun.
So, John, open mic.
Let's just mute him.
Yeah. So, John, say that again, because I've shared this with regular ballers and they get it.
Well, do you understand the argument, though?
No, I just shared. I just asked a question. How do you get an angle? It's so basic. How do you achieve an angle? Just type it in. What's an angle? It tells you what an angle is. It needs two straight lines meeting at a corner, creating a vertex. So you get an angle.
Well, it's even worse than that, Tent, because you need two right angles. You need a right angle for the zenith of the celestial body, and you need a right angle at your zenith.
Right. That's the GP, your GP, and there's where the square would be. And the sun's GP, where the square would be. There's your box, your rectangle. And yeah, it's over for them, because all you got to do is ask him what an angle is. What's an angle? How do you achieve an angle? Just that, I remember Bev was on the show once, and he says it's in the name. It's self-explanatory. An angle are two straight lines meeting, creating a corner. I mean, you have to be stupid not to get this.
Is Bev not here? I can't see because I've got the photography up. But Bev joined earlier.
No, he's not. He's not on the show. But if he's listening, come on. Come on.
Bev join?
Yeah, he can join.
Are you here, Bev?
No, this is. Yeah, Bev's top dog on this topic.
No, he's not here. He was here earlier. Sorry, go ahead, Brian.
I went through some of this with Bev on one of his hangouts the other night. He didn't know what to make of it because he didn't have much trust in it. So I said, look at it, look into it a bit more. You'll hear more about it himself and the lads over there, Buster and them. I said, look into it a bit more. And I said, you won't be disappointed. I said, because I said, the circle, like let's say when you use three circles of equal altitude, that means it's three straight lines to the GPs of each one of those stars. I said, so all this rubbish from the ballers who are claiming, you know, this rubbish where they start claiming that the old spherical excess triangle, where you have this melted triangle that's not a triangle anymore on the side of the sphere, that this completely blows that out of the water, because this is a triangle on the Earth that's presumed flat and works all the time. It can't work without being flat. So there is no spherical excess triangle nonsense that some of these mock surveyors come out with. So I said that to him, and I said, look, give it a bit more time, have a look into it. I said, if you throw it out the window, you'll regret it, I said, because in time to come, you will eventually see the point of it, because it's growing, more and more people are getting the argument. So...
Well, Bev knows what an angle is, like nobody's business. And once he realizes how the sextant works, it's the same angle that he describes real well. So he's going to get it.
Well, that's what I said to him. I said it completely supports his argument, because his main argument is that horizontal and level are the same thing. Now, horizontal and level are the same thing, but the ballers have this other nonsense claim that they get completely wrong anyway, to do with the center of their globe. But the thing about it is that this completely supports his original argument. Horizontal and level have to be the same thing, otherwise sextants don't work, and consequently navigation for hundreds of years with sextants never happens. What's your argument?
Nathan, pop the picture of what the right angle is.
Well, what's your problem, Brian? The navigators just don't understand,
That did need to be pointed out, to be fair, Chocolate. I mean, we haven't had a fundy on for at least 40 minutes, so...
Yeah, I'm getting fundied out.
Had to say something fundy.
1 second. Did you say it's in Master B 10th?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, right angle is an internal angle which is equal to 90 degrees. There's your picture. There's the vertical, which is your zenith. And there's the zero line, which is your horizontal surface of the ocean. And there's the box Brian's talking about. It's going to create a box. It's an internal angle. See that special symbol like a box in the corner? That says it's a right angle. The 90 degree is rarely written in. You know why? Because it's obvious. If we see the box in the corner, we are being told it's a right angle. Any curved lines there, boys?
No. And there's a guy in chat called Rob H who's trying to correct me, saying it's not three circles of equal altitude, Brian, it's equal elevation. Rob, you need to read a bit more. Because it's altitude, elevation, it's the same thing. There's several different terms that describe the same things, like line of position and all this.
Yeah, it's a circle of equal altitude is also called line of position.
Yeah, but
so what they're going to do is try to. What they're going to try to do. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, he's trying to say that I'm wrong by saying call it the circle of equal altitude, as if no one else calls it that other than me and you. It's like, no, that's what it's called. What is it? He said, 1 second, it's the circle of equal elevation. I mean, yeah, it might be called that as well, but it's also called the circle of equal altitude. It's in the official writings of it, the diagrams, the stuff.
Altitude is elevation.
Yeah, that's the point. Like he's trying to correct me on something for absolutely nothing, and he's wrong to correct me because I'm correct.
Why does he come on here and try to correct somebody?
Yeah, come on in. Come on in and correct me.
It's one of these anti-flat Earth positions again, I'm afraid, I think, because certainly on a flat plane and the way the calculations work, it's the same thing, isn't it? Altitude. Yeah. But on a ball, unfortunately, it isn't, is it? Because elevation and altitude would have different, particularly with regards to the geometry we're doing here. It would actually, it on the ball, it misplaces them, doesn't it, by the drop value. So it would have an impact, and again, rendering the calculations and that useless. But there is a difference on their model, but not on ours, the way we use it.
But Rob H is actually, he's actually one of Nathan's channel members.
No,
so it could be a flat Earth.
I'm saying it's a ball, it's a flat Earth denier's position. To attack it like that is, again, just to deny that your own model would fail significantly. That to use that I'm saying use that definition against the flat Earth model. There is no indictment there. It's the same thing. But if you transpose it to the ball, it's not the same thing, and it would have an effect on the calculations.
May I give a little insight here? So when the navigator's in the ocean doing this, he doesn't. It's impossible to put this on a chart because the circle is so big. The radius from the GP of the sun could be 3,000 miles, and the circle is obviously with a diameter of 6,000 miles, and it's right in the middle. And he doesn't know where on the circle he is until he does a second circle of equal altitude with another star. And so where the 2 points meet, he's in one of those two positions. So you can't put that on a chart. So what they do after they shoot the star off the horizon and get the angle, they convert the angle. Each degree is 60 nautical miles. So if he shoots a star and it says 50 degrees with the sextant, he has to minus that from his 90, his zenith. So that's 50 minus 90 is 40. 40 times 60 is 2,400 miles. So he's 2,400 miles. And he knows where it's at because he's looking at it. Then he goes into the Alt-Az in azimuth, and from the north on this chart, he brings the arrow down until it finds that bearing. Now that's a horizontal system. The Alt-Az. It's 0 at the horizon, 90 at the zenith, and it's the height above measured in degrees. That's what altitude is. Height above horizon measured in degrees. It's a horizontal coordinate system. So yeah, Bev's going to love this because it's horizontally based. So you get your bearing, you go to your charts and say, this is my bearing. But at first they had to guess where they were from yesterday's position. So they do a dead reckoning. Like, I think I'm here today, with the tides, and I may have swerved off 20 miles or something, but I think I'm here. And then they go through their math and they find the actual position. So, yeah, you can't put this big circle on a chart. So when it comes down to once you get the azimuth, you bring it back to where you think you are, and then you go through all the steps that they show on how to, on your chart, know exactly where that fix is.
Indeed.
So I got some more slides there on Master B. It's just all self-explanatory. But there's the last one is a picture of a protractor, what is a sextant? They all call it a glorified protractor. Well, what do you see in this protractor?
Angles.
Oh, you see a 0 line from left to the 90, and then 0 from the right to the 90.
Right.
And then a straight line on the second reading is 180. So a straight line is 180. So when you're on the boat, you minus dip to get your eyeball to the ocean level. So you're 9 feet above the water. You take your angle, you minus it, and there's your 180. There's your 0 to the horizon. You need a straight line. Can't beat it. That's how a protractor works. That's how a sextant works.
Nice. Another quick shout out to Jules Luds. He says 140 watching. Smash the likes. Indeed. Yeah, smash the like. Thank you very much for the super chat. That's 3. Really appreciate the support, Jules.
I'd like to just ask a question quick.
Feel free, Eric. Who did you want to ask?
10. So I'm not able to listen or to get the visuals while you guys are speaking. So and also I can't go back and watch the videos very often because they're pretty long. But so I am listening, and I'm trying to learn while listening, and I think I get it pretty well. But if 10th could, I would like him to just give me the elevator pitch on how the sextant works, like you could quickly explain it to a layperson, because I think that would really help. Because I think it is pretty basic, but you can like expand into how it works overall.
I don't know.
All right,
man.
I'll give it my best.
I don't know if you can get this into 60 seconds, but the challenge is on. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I can. It's an elevator speech. I'm a salesman. Come on. You got to know how to do that, right? A sextant is a glorified protractor. It measures angles between two objects. So if you were on the ocean and you say, okay, where's the sun right now? Well, that's one object. Well, since you're in the middle of the ocean, you got to know landmarks. What's the other object? Well, it's the horizon. So you bring the sextant with the double mirrors, you bring the sun down to the horizon, and it tells you the angle of the sun and the exact position over the earth it is. So what's your two objects? The horizon and where the sun is in degrees in altitude. So sextant needs two straight lines, because where you are as a navigator taking the sighting, that's where the corner meets, and you are the vertex. That's how you get an angle. That's how sextant works. You can't get an angle with the bottom line being curved. So it can't work on a curved surface. Do you understand?
I wouldn't use horizon as an object.
I wouldn't say this is a simple subject.
They say it. I'm using their language. I stole everything from the way they say it. I don't want to be accused of putting my own words. So I say circle of equal altitude because that's what they say. I say it's a glorified protractor because that's what they say. I say it's angle between two objects because that's what they say. And they die with what they say.
It's easy when you understand it. Like Tent has this, so like it's very easy.
There's a guy in the chat called Level Guy who's been basically dogging us out all through the whole hour on the sextant, and he won't come in or whatever. But he said his last comment was that to someone else is that that what was it he said? Yeah, did you only use the angle to get your I think it's latitude? He said. Not that losing his comment now. 1 second. Yeah, it was. Where is these? 1 second, I get these comment now just before.
You got 20 seconds.
Yeah, but the whole point is that, like, how do you know your latitude and longitude? How do you get that? You have to triangulate your position. Yeah, you send angles. He's trying to say that we're talking a load of rubbish. He's trying to say there's no such thing as circles of equal altitude, basically.
Okay, with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
The open ocean is to get angles so that you know what your longitude, latitude are.
Okay, say next. Tent, you had it right. When they do that, just say next.
You could just there was a point there in terms of the horizon and an objection in terms of it being an object. I would agree with that, but for me, my understanding of what the horizon is there, it's there as a leveling device. Yeah, it uses the fact that it disappears and keeps level. So it doesn't have to be an object per se. It's for you to align that bottom layer of your protractor, the bottom line, just to get that perpendicular to the surface of the sea. Yeah,
correct.
That's what you're trying to do. It doesn't need to be an object. Once you've got the sextant correctly aligned, then you can measure the angle to the object you're interested in.
I agree with that. I'm just saying that the baller in me still, when I hear the word object with the horizon, I immediately think of geometric horizon.
And that again,
trigger, I guess.
yeah, but that again, you see, if that was the case, yeah, then dependent on the day and your height, that would incur a downward dip, wouldn't it? So it would be not leveling to a plane to measure an angle. It would be tilting down to line up with the edge of a ball based on your height. So you would be, and that's what I used to think the dip angle correction was, which it isn't. All the dip angle correction does is bring you back down to the surface exactly. What it doesn't do is pretend you're angling to a horizon, which is a leading edge of a ball, which would subvert what you thought was straight.
Right. And the reason they use the horizon is because it's very difficult to try to use the vertical. I mean, how would you do that? How would you try to get the vertical right on the moving, vessel? So that's why they use the horizon, because it's steady, it's flat, it's horizontal, it's straight, it's level.
Yeah, plumb
even if they
work on a ship, is it?
Well, I was just going to say, even if you use the vertical, right, and you make the top of your triangle flat, and you have you're like at the...
No, the vertical is set by the horizon. The 90 is set by the horizon.
Right, but what I'm saying is you'd have to have a flat sky to get an angle, using an angle.
No, you're
like
moving
that.
too much, John. In the ocean, you're moving way too much.
Well, I ain't talking about the ocean. What I'm saying, though, is...
when hang on. The vertical sextant can also be used when you're near shore to triangulate two lighthouses. The charts tell you how high the cliff is and how tall the lighthouse is. You use the sextant to bring the lighthouse with the double mirror function to the shoreline. But this because you have landmarks, you know what it is, and you can do that. In the ocean, you don't have that.
They will probably call... Sorry, John.
I just want to say real quick, like, if you're talking about the vertical, like you'd have a line through your zenith, that's through the top of your head, and then a line drawn out from your eye to, say, a star, and then from that star connecting to your zenith position, assuming, what was it, a 3,000, just whatever the assumption they throw in there with it. But that line at the top would have to be straight as well, right?
That's the point. Yeah, the point is directly above you is 90.
Yeah.
Okay. Directly above you is 90. That's your zenith. But it's hard to gauge that. So the way you get that 90 to be a true zenith and a true 90 is to shoot it off the horizon, where it gives you the right angle.
Well, yeah, I was just saying that craps on the celestial sphere. That's all I was...
Oh, absolutely. The imaginary, the word that they put in front of it, the imaginary celestial sphere. I don't have to imagine the horizon. I don't have to imagine a 90 degree and what it takes to get 90 degree. That's a measurement.
Tough man.
Everything.
Just embrace the fiction in your imaginary celestial sphere.
Yeah, everything at the horizon, just remember this, everything at the horizon is 0 and directly above you is 90. And somewhere in between is the luminary, the celestial body that you're shooting. Once you shoot it, you don't bring it up to your 90, you bring it down to the horizon with the sextant. And there's your angle. It's over for the ball.
I'm still
Hello,
commenting.
guys.
With,
I was
sorry.
reading about the Apollo navigation system. Supposedly, they use a sextant to go to the moon. So I was curious how they would get the horizon of the Earth in that claim. If you research that, the Apollo
first of all,
sextant...
They just didn't go to the moon.
Excuse me, that's a violation of second law of thermodynamics, so that never happened. So start there.
No, I I'm not arguing with that, but it's funny that rocket science proves a flat plane, and the same devices that they're claiming to use to go to the moon has to use a level surface to navigate.
No, that's an angle. I can use the sextant. I've seen videos where they use the sextant to get an angle between two stars. Has nothing to do with Earth.
So
I thought you had to use the horizon.
Okay, hold on. Let me just get his question clear. I think what he's saying is, when out in space, a violation of the second law of thermodynamics, a place that they definitely haven't gone, so we'll rename it. When out in Narnia, where'd you get your 90 for the sextant? That's his question.
Oh, I know. Magical bendy space-time.
Who cares? It's not real.
So, do you see how your question becomes malformed? So, the reason for these sort of postulations being put out there, it's the same with rockets working in a vacuum. You want to argue all day about whether or not rockets will or won't work in a vacuum, you're automatically begging the question of a space vacuum for this to work in. So this was the same. So let's argue all day about how a sextant would work if you haven't got a horizon, because you're out in space, right? So, but then we're out in space, right? So that's win-win for the person who's on the side of argumentation for space, and lose-lose for us, while we argue about where they get their 90 from in space, when space isn't real.
Makes sense. It just seems so funny that the same technologies and navigational equipment is what like the Apollo missions claim to use for going beyond the Earth realm.
They borrowed that from navigators on airplanes.
Okay, I just want to give this guy a couple more examples. So NASA also simultaneously claim that the trip was preordained, and once they took off, Buzz Lightyear or whatever his name is, said that they were just passengers. They're just there for the ride. It just went, right? They calculate the trajectory. It's being sucked towards the gravitation of the moon in a certain particular way once they slingshot around. Well, all that's preordained. That's one rhetoric. Official, on record as him saying it. We're just there for the ride, we're just passengers. Another rhetoric is that they navigated by the stars and controlled the craft with star charts, and they're on video, apparently, on their way to the moon, doing exactly that with star charts. So, there's two rhetorics. Also, in interview, from the surface, you can see the stars and you can't see the stars. So, you know, it's riddled with doublespeak because it isn't true. Like any lie, there's contrasting and what's the one? I've forgotten what the term they use in criminology. Where you've just got more than one story, basically. Your stories aren't concise. Contradictory, right. Contradictory stories. So suddenly there's a different story that makes sense in one version of events, but makes a different version of events make no sense. Well, yeah, isn't that the truth? When you're operating in bloody Narnia, you're going to be riddled with continuity errors, which is what these are.
In my research into cosmology and the history leading up to heliocentrism being accepted kind of mainstream, that in the scientific revolution, there was many, because theologians were more involved in it back in the 1600s, and they had a term called double truth. And so it was the same sort of thing where you have to accept these double truths that are contradictory, and it caused a lot of disagreement amongst the theologians in Europe back in the scientific revolution.
Maybe that's what we're experiencing now. Who knows?
Revolution.
They're still involved. Catholic Church owns 80% of all the observatories. And who was the father of the Big Bang?
Lemaitre?
Yeah. No, they're still involved. It's just they're not proper theologians. They like the title, though. The bubble sextant is used on an airplane where it's got a level because you're not on the surface of the ocean and the navigator can't really do it properly from his position. So they use a bubble sextant there. They have to get level to match the horizon. But the space thing is a violation of the second law, so that never happens.
So I was on probably several months ago, and Nathan was teaching me more about natural science, how it's a observation of phenomena, because I went through university and studied physics and chemistry, but I hadn't really learned that distinction. And so in all of my looking into flat Earth, I decided that the observations, there's too much like long distance, there's too many factors with the air and distortion and refraction and all that. And so I have got a gyroscope, a navigational gyroscope, and I actually just ran it for the first time yesterday and documented it for over 12 hours. And the rigidity of the gyroscope out of a passenger jet that I got from an airplane junkyard did not deviate at all. And I took a time lapse to show. So, I mean, it's just observational of the phenomena that the Earth is stationary and that the sun is moving, because you can see the shadow passing over throughout the whole day.
I have a question. At some point, did the plane turn mid-flight? They sometimes do this. And did the gyroscope then subsequently stay in its Euclidean position?
I just need to clarify something with him. Hold on. Did you, when you got the gyro from the junkyard, did they also give you an aeroplane with it?
No, just the gyro.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah, actually, I did kind of demonstrate that, Arwen. Like after the sun went down, it's not really, there's no reference to the gyro with the shadows and the light. So I moved the gyros. So the gimbal moves about the rotor. And so you can see that the rotor still maintained that same position, which I started it yesterday morning.
Cool.
But the reason I haven't been able to like publish this or make a video of it is actually because I
sensed a question. Can I just clarify if you were asking? Because you intentionally didn't call it phenomena, and you were very careful about your words, which I appreciate, which is great. But I sense that you're sort of saying, look, this isn't observation of natural phenomena, so what the hell do I do with it? What do I call it, right? Well, you publish it, and it's publishable under a modus tollens logical inference based on the mechanics of gyros. It's not science, it's an observation. And you're drawing logical inference from your observation. So you can say, if the Earth's rotating, we will see deviation in a gyroscope. We don't see any deviation in a gyroscope, therefore the Earth can't be rotating, because you've got a fixed frame. The inherent property of the gyroscope, for those who are watching that don't appreciate what a gyro actually does, is it rotates in fixed space. So the cage, if you were to have something beneath it moving, i.e. Earth turning, the spinning part would stay fixed in its frame of reference, and the cage would move because it's attached to the ground that's moving underneath the fixed frame of the spinning gyro. Ergo, you would expect to see a deviation of the cage versus the spinning gyro if the Earth, which it's attached to, is spinning beneath. Now, there is no deviation in this mechanical gyroscope observed, and by logical inference you can say, well, the ground beneath it isn't moving then.
So simply, could you say that again about the modus tollens?
If P, then Q, not Q, therefore not P. If Earth is turning, we'll see drift in the gyro. We don't see drift in the gyro, therefore Earth can't be turning. If you move something underneath, right? So if you've got it attached to a hill, so you've got it on a shopping trolley, and you attach it to the shopping trolley and push it down a hill, right? What will happen is the gyro will stay horizontal. You've spun it up, it'll just stay horizontal, and the cage will move around relative to the position that it's attached to the shopping trolley as it moves down the hill, right? So it'll move around in the cage. Well, that's precisely what you would expect to see if the ground below it is moving, right? I.e., if there's earth turning beneath the fixed frame of the gyro, you'd expect to see drift. Now, coincidentally, that's precisely what they tell us should and does happen. According to Foucault, his gyro drifts at 15 degrees an hour because Earth's turning beneath it. So they actually claim the thing that you have not observed is a claim proof that we do spin. So Foucault claims you spin up a gyro and it'll drift at 15 degrees an hour because Earth's turning beneath it.
This is the part that shocks me so much is that...
Sorry, just 1 second. I heard Adam piping up, and I'm sure he's got something to correct me on. Or go ahead, Adam.
No, just to add with the I know he probably can't see it, but I've just put Rob Durham's on screen, who did the same thing, hijacked a aircraft, a compressed air one gyro, and took it for did the same thing to show there was no movement, but then just took it for a drive to show it worked. If you'll see it keep its rigidity in free spaces. Rob goes driving. So that's, just to back the guy up. What he's saying, it doesn't demonstrate it, but they do work, look.
Right. So it's showing as he's moving around, the gyroscopic motion is such that you can see the cage moving relative to the fixed frame of the gyroscope that's spinning around, and he's got an airline attached to it. Was this the chap that I ended up in an argument with on Iron Realm Media about him calling it science?
No, this is not John. This is Rob Durham.
Oh, okay.
The helicopter dude.
I was going to say, I thought that guy had just got a... Of the North. Go on, sorry. What's your name, by the way? The guy
Nathan.
Nathan.
But from USA.
Other Nathan. Sorry.
So this is what is so interesting to me is that these same technologies that are used to demonstrate and show natural phenomena that the Earth is stationary and a level plane, the gyroscope also, like the sextant, was claimed to be used by the Apollo missions for their navigation. So just... I mean, that's where the dissonance comes in. That's where the double truths start to be promulgated by most. And, it's a hurdle to get over for most people to acknowledge that, these things don't work on a spinning ball, and that to say, like, space is fake, people, that's really difficult to say. If that's what they believe and think is shown by the evidence that they've seen. But when you see it personally, I mean, like myself with the gyro, you see that the Earth is not moving.
Right, well, they take those claims that are demonstrable with your gyro, and they turn them into claims of proof of Earth spinning. So, as I say, the claim is that you will see drift under a gyro, or a pendulum. The exact same claim is, I'll put it in air quotes, proven out by the swinging back and forth of a pendulum with little dominoes around it, right? Well, the fact that it's knocking over the dominoes is an apparent deviation. Again, the inherent property of a pendulum being that it only swings back and forth. It doesn't swing round and round, but it seems to be swinging round and round in a figure of 8, if you will, because Earth's claimed to turn underneath that fixed back and forth motion. Likewise with a gyro, spinning on that flat plane after you spin it up, and then it'll remain in that regardless of what you do. It's easier to explain with a bicycle wheel on the end of your finger. You spin the bicycle wheel, and it doesn't matter if you turn your finger left or right or tilt it in any which way. The bicycle wheel just keeps spinning in that same reference. Like this gyro on screen, you can see it doing it as Adam's playing it out.
Because I have to go through a process because... there are other men.
Hold on 1 second, Chocolate. Go ahead, Nathan.
Oh, there are other men in authority that that I'm involved with that have brought me up on charges of incompetency for simply discussing these matters, and kind of put a censure on what I talk about, even though these are just simple and plain truths that can be observed by all. And it's just, the world is crazy.
Well, that sounds like feelings. They caught feelings behind what you're talking about, huh? Why do you think that would be if they're after
space,
truth?
Hold on just 1 second, Nathan. Go ahead, Chocolate.
No, I'm just saying, like, why do you think that would be? That you would get that reaction if these people that you're talking to are just after basic truth, right? Why would there be censure? Why would they not want open discussion about this? Because it's become emotional for them that you're even addressing it. Trust me, I get it. I get it a lot with people I speak to.
Right. It might be considered a destabilizing influence, to get very euphemistic. Like, that's how the ballers might see that when that arrives, right? A flat earther coming in there, bringing up all kinds of triggering things. Yeah, that's a destabilizing influence.
That's
From
correct.
a management perspective, they should do something about it, because they are supposed to keep everybody at work, not distracted, etc.
I agree. Depending on the circumstances the Chocolate works under, I don't think it is actually distracting anybody and they're getting on with everything regardless. But should it become the case that Chocolate's influence on his co-workers was a distraction, as a business person, you're just like, no. In the same way as if somebody Jewish came in and started spouting a load of rhetoric at everybody there, or a Muslim, or it doesn't matter who, a religious group, which is all heliocentrism is. Now, the fact that the people you're dealing with are under that religion and potentially unaware that it's a religion, and therefore, you don't challenge the state religion. They don't put it in that terms because they're completely and blissfully unaware that they're under a propaganda regime and religion in the first place. But you don't do that in this business place because it causes a disruption. And I'm sure it'd be the same in certain, Muslim territories, where it's just considered the norm that everybody around you is Muslim. So if suddenly someone came in and started saying, well, why are we all Muslim? They'd be like, hold on, you're just disturbing work. Just stop it. It doesn't matter that I disagree with you or agree with you on the subject. Don't start telling everybody that they should question being Muslim. Just do your job. Just get on with that.
Yeah, save it for after work.
I want to address the point that he brought up about the gyroscope.
Feel free. You still there, Nathan?
Yeah. The Earth,
listening.
The Earth turning underneath part. You're presupposing an axis of turn within that modus tollens, which I ain't saying the modus tollens in itself is bad, but we don't measure a radius of Earth. So there is no axis to Earth for it to turn on.
What bastard, eh? He's basically saying modus tollens, black swan's perfectly acceptable because within that you've got the assumption that they still hold to when they ask how much is missing in meters or feet, right? So there's therefore that assumption being held to despite the fact it being a begging the question fallacy. So therefore, black swan modus tollens perfectly acceptable. However, thereafter, for me to say, I just use modus tollens for this. John's come along and gone, no, because modus tollens black swan. So you don't need to form a modus tollens for this. Just ask for R. In other words, he's just unzipped his fly, pissed right on my bonfire, and said, nah, you'll need R for that. So your modus tollens is totally redundant.
Yep, the black swan is here to stay forever and ever and ever.
And exactly. And I love it. I'm smiling from ear to ear that he's done that because I like the fact that I'm embarrassed to now say, for a moment, I felt quite smart there. Wow, aren't I clever, right? I just formulated that into modus tollens and he can go away with that. Only for John to come along and go, you idiot. You don't need any of that. Just ask for R. And he's absolutely right. And I love it.
Well, there isn't, and there isn't going to be an R for a sphere, but I have to throw this in there. If the Earth is a horizontal plane, then there might very well be a center to that plane, and that could be measured as an or.
Why
That
do it?
depends
Why
on the
do
nature
it? Why
of the spatial
speculate?
confine.
Ah, now I've got to hold you to
It
task.
depends on the nature of the spatial
No,
confine.
everyone stop.
Some
Brian made
would
the claim.
argue-
It made it in a vague, wishy-washy way, but it doesn't matter. You've just thrown that out there as a claim, Brian. Okay. Well, yeah, anything's possible. But beyond the anything's possible, you're laying that as a claim now, aren't you? Technically speaking.
Well, no, I'm just pointing out that a flat plane, just like a 2D circle, can have a central point.
Wrong.
And that central you could have. Hang on, sorry, I'm wrong. Okay.
No, oh, God. Arwin.
No,
Hold on, stop, Brian. Hold on, stop, Arwin.
This is my
Stop. Do you not understand? Stop. No. Right. Likewise, I'd back that off and go, you can't discount it. That's why I immediately went in with anything's possible, so I'm not going to just have you jumping in with no. Well, actually, yeah, maybe. But he's laying it out as a claim, so I want to hear him back it in some way. So far, he's just presupposed a circle, I might add. Fundy.
Well, no, you see, if
Arwin, this isn't your battle, please. Arwin, please.
It's cosmogony.
The point I'm making is it doesn't matter what if the outside of it is a star shape, if it's a circle, if it's a square, it doesn't matter. You can still find if it's possible to find a central point, then you will be able to make some kind of radius and make some kind of circle, even if there's edges out past that circle. I don't know. And just the point I'm making is
And
you're presupposing
hold on. So
I don't care whether there is or not.
So what? So, okay, let's say I arbitrarily assign what I decide to be the area of land as having the central point at the North Pole. I just decide that it's North Pole centric, like an azimuthal equidistant projection, right? And I go, okay, well, it doesn't matter if it's star-shaped or hexagon-shaped or whatever the outside perimeter shape is. I'm going to assume it's a geometric shape that puts me in the centre, and therefore I can draw a circle around. And it doesn't really matter if it's actually a pond and it kind of goes out a bit more in some bits and you can still draw a circle. Okay, yes, we can draw arbitrary circles on the ground if we decide arbitrarily where the central point is. Well, so what?
Well, nothing really. I'm just stating that can be done. So, just kind of.
Can I address
it? Cat amongst the pigeons. That's all.
No, fine.
Okay.
We can. Let me just agree with you, so we can move on. Yes, we can arbitrarily draw out circles. Thank you, Brian.
So can I address it too? Being cosmogony,
address what?
The subject.
Address what?
The subject of cosmogony and what things can be of the realm. Yeah, that's my specialty. Don't exclude me from my specialty.
There we go. Go ahead, Darwin.
Yeah. So there can only be a central point if there is an outer confine. If there is a specific outside, then there can be a center. There is no guarantee there is. There's no guarantee you will run into a barrier inevitably.
Precisely.
Right? We
Well
don't
said.
know this.
Yes.
And only then can there be a central point, technically. And
Correct.
geometric.
I think he covered that when he said could be. Right?
Speaking of presupposing and supposing, is a hypothesis an explanation?
No. Supposition, of course.
Well, hold on.
Listen, fellas, if you don't mind, Arwen, if you could just unblock me from your email, I could explain to you and get the magnets to you, and that's all I'm really interested in doing.
Lunatic.
And then we can stop the COVID thing if you want.
Nathan, could you kick this guy off?
I can't ban
Why?
anybody. Right, hold
What
on.
makes me crazy, Arwen?
Don't put me in that
I
position.
blocked you for a reason, dickhead.
Sorry, what's going on?
Did the magnets actually make it to you?
What's going on? Who are you? What do you want? Why are you pestering Arwin? Are you a stalker?
Yes, he is.
Basically, I'm the fellow who sent Arwen a bunch of money hoping he'd buy magnets. Then I found out he has an address and I tried sending him he's got the magnets, which will prove to him he got illegally implanted, which he's desperately running away from.
Magnets?
What?
I know. It's even
This is
crazier
off
than
topic.
flat Earth.
He
isn't
wants
it?
to test if I've been probed by aliens or something.
No, Arwen.
Yeah,
You actually got implanted.
Okay, stop.
by-
Everyone stop. Please, just try, for your duration here. Poet, is it? Please try and keep it on nature of reality. Please, I beg of you.
I want to stop COVID. Would you like to do that?
No. Go
No,
away.
that's wrong platform. Go to somebody that discusses medicine. This isn't what we discuss here. Sorry. You can stay. Just we discuss the nature of reality as opposed to the nature of politics or medicine. Hope that's
He's
okay.
not interested.
He's not. He's gone on mute. It's like nature of reality. Not interested. Bye
He's
bye.
only interested in magnets and implants.
You're lending credence to it. Right. No.
John was going to say something.
We did have yesterday a flat Earth topic after you left, Nathan. That in no way could you attribute it to chocolate. Don't know if he's there, but we were chatting afterwards. Do you know about Pat and you saying, you know, get me an expert? And I've got it lined up. I've got the video, but just the sound of Neil deGrasse Tyson explaining quite categorically why you'll never get an expert. Shall I?
Is it on a? Can you transmit sound?
Yes, we did it. It worked yesterday. I'm gonna do it. If you do it as a application, it should.
If I do what as an application, this is going to get confusing real quick. Do I just let you play?
If I share it not as a screenshot, but as just as the app, it should share the sound. So it should. See if you can hear it. Did you hear the dingles?
No.
No.
Is it a YouTube video? Is it a YouTube video?
It's stolen from one. I can send it you.
Yeah, if you stick it in Skype, I should be able to play it, right?
Ha! Shutting down flat earthers. You mean avoiding flat earthers and avoiding answering the questions. That kind of shutting down.
Yeah, gatekeeping.
Trying to make people not interested. That's really what it comes down to.
He's got their mic open in. Oh, it's Adam. Adam causing feedback. Okay, doke. Yeah, this will take a while.
Put it in the war room for you. So once it's there now. So it's like the first minute of the video anyway, but it does. What was the phrase? Chocolate.
It shows the fear that they have in debating this topic. It's beautiful.
While it's sending, because is it going on Master Bit? I assume.
War room. I put it in war room.
Oh, war room. Okay.
It's there now.
Yeah. Let's just talk amongst yourselves while I figure out how it plays. Okay, it plays in Skype. Okay. Let's have a look. You should get the audio. Just pop yourselves on mute for a second.
I don't like debating people because in a debate, what is the construct? It's typically two people and there's an audience and you debate some opposite sides of some issue and then there's a winner of the debate. And then everyone walks away reflecting on the winner. So who wins a debate? It's often the person who's charismatic.
Is there a point where it actually says it? Because this is something that I'll get struck for if I play too much of it.
About another 30 seconds, I would suggest, which is these.
Be more specific. Fast forward 30 seconds?
I can't be that specific. It was about a minute we played of it. I think the point then, if you
that's okay. I'll just play the last bit. We've interjected now, so I'll play another 30 seconds.
Who may be charming, that's related to charisma, of course, who has a good way with words, good vocabulary. And you can have someone who doesn't have any of that, who is speaking objective truths, who could lose a debate.
Okay.
So,
more?
Well, no, that is the fundamental point. Listen to what he believes. It's he's not going to debate us because he's got fundamental truths that aren't debatable. And he didn't debate us just in case someone charismatic came along and won. against these fundamental truths. But they're so strong, his fundamental truths, he won't debate them.
Yeah, and he thinks he's not the charismatic one in that, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's like you're scared to put your money up, right? You have the objective truth, as is stated by him. He has the objective truth, but he decides he won't debate somebody because somebody with more charisma and personality and a better vocabulary might actually beat him at a debate along with his objective truth, and he can't have that, so he just chooses to not do it at all.
Who's he gonna debate? Darth Vader or something?
That might be what
Let me
he's
jump in.
implying. But all right.
Let me
after
jump in for a sec.
Go ahead,
All
Righteous.
right. After me.
Eli was talking.
Hold on.
I've witnessed.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, I witnessed what Neil deGrasse Tyson said. My first introduction to like an FE in like a big way was Stefan Molyneux versus the Flat Earther, and he came across as more like charismatic, more intelligent.
I mean, that's highly disrespectful.
More. Can I finish?
Yeah, Eli
please?
was talking. I'm sorry, Eli was talking.
No,
Yeah, no, guys. Hello. If I say go
Eli
ahead
was
to him,
talking.
yeah, don't just argue amongst yourselves about who's going to talk. I've said go ahead. Just let him. He's nearly done.
Right, that's how this works. Nathan says who talks. All right. Now, this guy came across as like more intelligent. He even tossed out logical fallacies, and he like really wooed me with his like, understanding of the English language and everything. And he made the Flat Earther look like a total fool to me. A total fool. But I bet you if I watch that video again, after all these years, I can spot all the mistakes that Stefan Molyneux came across as highly intelligent to me and charismatic as the fool.
That's Stefan Molyneux versus Stephen Chess.
I think it was that one. That was one of the things that really messed up my YouTube algorithm, and I was just getting flooded with FE after that. And it was
Stephen
kind of an interesting
Chess
video.
That guy who debated Stefan Molyneux's a mate of mine, Stephen Chess, currently streams Fortnite videos just by whatever.
Nice.
That's what he does at the moment. Very, very good guy. Got extremely into Flat Earth when it first came around, so he was prevalent on the scene, if you will, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And he did a few things of note. One of them was that interview with, or that debate with Stefan Molyneux. The other one was he phoned up Alex Jones and started telling him about how he loved all the products and bought them, and did he know the Earth was flat? And then he got cut off. So that was also
What?
Stephen Chess. Do you remember that?
Huh, that was Stephen Chess? I didn't know that.
Did you not know that was Stephen Chess? Right, that was Stephen
No.
Chess.
All right. Well,
Well,
the point
anyway-
that I was going to make on the back of.
I'll just
Okay,
one
go
second,
ahead,
Righteous.
finish.
Hold on, just 1 sec, Righteous. Go ahead, Eli. Go ahead.
No, let him finish, because my point, I have to go back to Chocolate's point that I don't think anyone remembers, but I'm going to say anyway, because that's Righteous's fault. So he can finish, and then I'll go back to Chocolate's point if anybody can remember the context.
Okay. Go ahead, Righteous.
The grass debate?
All right, I just wanted to round out that basically I've experienced what deGrasse Tyson has been saying, and even though I don't agree with what he says the nature of the Earth is, I do understand this because I've seen it firsthand myself. So I just wanted to say that. That's all.
Okay,
Fair enough.
to Chocolate's point, if you remember what it was, that might be implied. However, the truthfulness of what he's saying still stands.
You have to summarize what Chocolate said, because I have actually forgotten now. You're right.
Yeah, I know. It's
My bad.
messed
It's,
up, isn't
I blame Righteous.
We all told him to shut up, but he didn't listen.
Look, it's not up to you. I said go ahead because he was very polite and said, do you mind if I add something? And I went, yes. And then you're all like, no, well, I was going next. And then you argued amongst yourselves for about a minute or two.
No, I was already in the middle of talking.
Yeah.
When
Eli was
you
already
decided
talking.
that.
Okay,
Eli was
my
talking.
bad.
He was in the middle of talking.
Right, for at least 5 seconds. So
You guys sound like babies. Get on with it.
That's my fault. That's my fault. Okay? Not Righteous's. That's my fault. Anyway, you'll have to remind us, Eli, if you would be so kind, of what the topic was with Chocolate so we can now understand the context.
Okay. Now that was pretty clear on what happened, I will. So Chocolate was talking about how basically Neil deGrasse Tyson, like he's looking at it from the perspective of, well, he doesn't want to debate because he feels like he holds the superior position because he has the facts, but he could lose, so he won't do it. But what I'm saying is what he said about a person having objective truths. That's the person who wins the debate, unless there's an unfair moderator who's not letting points get across.
Yeah,
I don't even, it's not that Neil deGrasse Tyson, he can't even imply that he has facts.
Yeah, but he implied that he's the one with the, he implied that he has the objective truth. And that somebody that can come up against him with his, strapped up with his objective truth could beat him just due to charisma and personality and a tight vocabulary, right? Well, Mr. Objective Truth, that makes no sense to me. Even though that might be true, right? But if you truly feel like you have the objective truth, then I don't see why, Mr. Astrophysicist smoking the grass, you would not step into a debate in this and squash this in 5 minutes.
It seems like the phrase, this is settled science, I'm moving on, is where they're at. They will never debate us because they don't have the objective truth. It's a projection. They say the science is settled to avoid us because the science works on our side. They only have pseudoscience. It's pure projection.
Oh, I have a good quote here. Just give me a second. Oh, okay. Look at this. A fundamental presupposition of modern cosmology is the Copernican principle that we are not in a central or otherwise special region of the universe. Studies of type Ia supernova, together with the Copernican principle, have led to the inference that the universe is accelerating in its expansion. Usual explanation for this is that there must be a dark energy to drive the acceleration. Alternatively, it could be the case that the Copernican principle is invalid and that the data has been interpreted within an inappropriate theoretical framework. If we're to live in a special place in the universe near the center of a void where the local matter density is low, then the supernova observations would be accounted for without the addition of dark energy. Timothy Clifton, Oxford Astrophysics. So he's basically saying observations don't agree with the Copernican model, which brought us the Big Bang and everything else.
With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.